Today, we're going to decode the exact mechanics of financial freedom. We're going to look straight into the distinct mindsets that totally separate the people who work tirelessly for their money from the people whose money works tirelessly for them. It's all based on Robert Kiyosaki's foundational insights, and it is an absolute game changer. So let's kick things off with a pretty massive question you really need to ask yourself. Are you hauling buckets or are you building pipelines? Because how you answer that, well, it completely dictates your financial future. It's a simple metaphor, sure, but it represents two entirely different ways of moving through the world of money. To make all of these concepts crystal clear, we're going to follow a quick roadmap. We'll start with the rat race trap, reveal the actual cash flow quadrant, break down employees and the self-employed, then move over to business owners and investors. After that, we'll hit assets versus liabilities, and finally, wrap up with choosing your financial path.
All right, let's jump straight into part one, the rat race trap.
Take a look at how cash actually flows for most folks. It's wild when you map it out. You bust your tail for a company to earn a salary, right? Then you immediately work for the government through taxes. And finally, you work for the bank, paying off your mortgage and credit cards, meaning your hard-earned salary flows straight out of your expense column to pay literally everyone else first. You end up being the last person to benefit from your own hard work. Kiyosaki calls this endless loop the rat race. It's a trap where fear keeps you clinging to a job. You know, the fear of not paying bills, the fear of getting fired. And then the second you get that paycheck, desire or greed kicks in and keeps you spending on liabilities. It basically makes you a slave to money, rather than allowing you to step back and figure out how to make money work for you. Which brings us to part two, the cash flow quadrant revealed. So here's the actual map of the quadrant. What's absolutely fascinating here is that it categorizes everyone based entirely on where their cash comes from. The letters stand for E for employee, S for self-employed, B for business owner, and I for investor. Every single person generating an income lives in at least one of these four sections. And if you split this map right down the middle, you get two very different worlds. The left side, the E and the S, well, that's the territory of people seeking security by hauling buckets of water. But the right side, the B and the I, that is the territory of people seeking actual freedom by building pipelines. Let's zoom in on that left side in part three, employees and self-employed. Starting with the E quadrant, the employee. If you're here, your livelihood is completely dependent on an employer. You are fundamentally trading your most precious, finite resource, your time, for a steady paycheck. And honestly, because of how the system is wired, you're usually taxed to the absolute maximum. You're working diligently, but ultimately, you're making the business owner and the shareholders rich, not yourself. Then we've got the S quadrant, the self-employed. Think of your freelance designers, consultants, or maybe a private practice doctor. Now sure, the self-employed person has more independence and is essentially their own boss. But actually, scratch that. They don't own a business, they just own a job. The harsh reality of the S quadrant is that if you take a vacation or if you get sick and stop working, your income completely stops flowing. So whether you work for the system as an employee or you literally are the system as a self-employed professional, there is a fatal flaw you both share. Ultimately, you're both still hauling buckets. You are both fundamentally trading finite time for dollars. Let's cross the border to the right side of the map in part four, business owners and investors. Welcome to the B quadrant, the business owner. Now this is a totally different ballgame from being self-employed. A true business owner doesn't just do the work, they own a system. They hire really smart people, often from the E and S quadrants, to run it for them. A B quadrant business owner can literally walk away for a year, come back, and find their business more profitable than when they left it. Why? Because it doesn't require their physical presence to generate cash. And then there's the ultimate goal, the I quadrant, the investor. This is where your money is working 24 hours a day, generating passive income. Wealth here grows on autopilot. Think of the investor like someone planting a tree. You water it for a few years, put in the effort, and then one day its roots are deep enough that it doesn't need you anymore. It just provides shade for generations. You know, I love this little detail from the source material. The author actually jokes that his business partner is his cat. It sounds totally ridiculous, but he says it to tastefully break the whole illusion we have about investing. It reminds us that investing isn't about sitting in a highly stressful, cutthroat boardroom sweating bullets. It's simply about logically finding opportunities where your money does the heavy lifting for you. It's really just a game of financial intelligence. So how do we make the jump? That brings us to part 5,
assets versus liabilities. This right here is honestly the golden rule of the entire philosophy. You have got to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. It's simple. An asset puts money in your pocket, whether you work or not. A liability takes money out of your pocket. The middle class gets trapped because they go out and buy houses, cars, gadgets, liabilities that constantly drain their cash, and they mistakenly call them assets.
When you look at the actual flow of money, the mechanics are undeniable. Notice how the rich person's asset column feeds directly up into their income column. Their money is out there working for them. But for the poor and middle class, any income they make gets entirely eaten up by expenses and liabilities, constantly draining their resources until there's nothing left to invest. Understanding that flow brings us to our final actionable step, part 6, choosing your financial path. Society pretty much aggressively pushes us all into the E quadrant, right? The traditional advice is go to school, get good grades, find a safe, secure job. But the path to actual generational wealth requires a massive shift in mindset. You have to purposefully aim your education and your efforts away from just chasing job security and point them straight toward the B and I quadrants. Making that shift requires a few concrete steps. Step 1, mind your own business. That means, hey, keep your day job for now, but start aggressively putting your extra money into building your asset column. Step 2, seek out work for what you will learn, like sales, marketing, and building systems, rather than just what you'll earn. And step 3, relentlessly focus on converting your heavily taxed earned income into passive portfolio income. That is how you shift from hauling buckets to building your own financial pipeline. So I'm going to leave you with this thought to chew on. Think really deeply about which quadrant you currently reside in and where you actually want to be. Because taking control of your financial destiny, it doesn't start in 10 years. It begins with the very next choice you make. When your alarm goes off on Monday morning, are you going to just go back to hauling buckets for someone else's asset column? Or are you going to start building your own pipeline to freedom?